Hi there. All right. Erin Oberlander is a doctor of musical arts, a certified holistic therapist, and a farmer's daughter who has returned home to the North Dakota prairie as a modern homesteader. She has been working with essential oils on a regular basis for the last 12 years as an owner of her company, Prairie Soap House and Apothecary. As a full-time network marketer, she assists people to live healthier lives through improved nutrition, healthier mindsets, entrepreneurship, and leadership development. As a former professor, Erin thrives on inspiring others with deeper knowledge in classes and workshops. Beyond these interests, Erin is passionate about exploring the medicinal and nutritional aspects of native plants and indigenous, that's a fun word, indigenous lifeways, and has begun distilling her own essential oils and hydrosols. Did I say that right?
Yep.
With plants she grows or gathers on her prairie. When not formulating products working with her clients, Erin can be found practicing yoga, singing, preserving, growing, and foraging food, hunting, and traveling. She and her husband, Phil, have chickens, ducks, turkeys, geese, guinea fowl, and one magnificent peacock, Norman, on their small permaculture, there we go, permaculture homestead, Arcadia, where emphasis in life and practice in harmony with nature, fellow humans, and divine. Erin's work has been published in the Nats Journal of Singing, Project Light and Love, and the Countryside Network, and the High Plains Reader. That's awesome. She appreciates the community of Mott and is proud of her work just for the health of it that has been done to create a healthier community. You can learn more about her work at the prairiearomatherapy.com, or you can find her on Facebook and Instagram. But today we're going to learn more about Erin and her story, straight from Erin, and she's going to tell us more about fears and how she's overcame them. And I want to say thank you guys for tuning in. And Erin, thank you so much for joining us on the Live Fearlessly vlog. We're so excited to hear more about you and the prairie, and it just sounds so magical and super fun.
Aw, thanks. It's my honor to be here. I'm super excited.
Yes, absolutely. So I always like to kind of start out with asking people something to get related to you more. So tell us something interesting about your life that we wouldn't know unless we were like having a real conversation with you.
Oh man. Well, what's interesting about my life right now? My husband and I just started Hapkido, which is a martial arts class. And I've never taken martial arts before. I've done belly dancing and ballroom dancing and all kinds of stuff over the years. And of course I practice yoga daily, but this is like a totally new form of movement and I'm really loving it. And I'm loving the mental discipline and focus of it as well.
That's awesome. So you said you and your husband, so do you do it together?
Yeah, we're taking the class together. We're taking a class in town together.
Okay, cool. So do they pair you up together, or do you is it guys and girls and girls, or?
It's all mixed.
Okay.
It's all mixed, even with kids. It's just kind of
sweet.
Yeah. It's really crazy and also really fun.
Oh, that is great. Cool. How long have you been doing that?
Just a few weeks. It's a brand new thing.
Okay. Something new. I like that.
Yep. Always pushing myself to expand my comfort zone. This is definitely doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So, so diving in more about your story and your fears. So, when fear was holding you down with your story, so, where was your mental aspect of it? How did you feel about yourself in those fears?
So I would say that fear was not something that I struggled strongly with until it kind of came upon me all of a sudden. And it was when I was in grad school in 2008. living an amazing life. I was actually really happy on the surface. I loved what I was studying. I loved everything that I was teaching. I loved what I was performing. But my body was spinning out of control at that same time. And I had a very sudden onset of what turned out to be a really severe panic and anxiety disorder at that time. I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Rebecca.
I don't think so.
And so that basically kind of took over my life for a good couple of years. And the thing that was so hard about that is that it was so completely all-encompassing. It was all-encompassing physically. It was all-encompassing mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially. And my world just got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller because I simply could not process anything anymore. And I just kind of closed down to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So how long ago was that?
That was in 2008. So, I mean,
Okay.
10 years ago. Wow, 10 years ago. Awesome.
I know, right? The end. The end.
Sometimes, in some ways it feels like yesterday, and in some ways it feels like another lifetime, because that's just not really part of my life at this point, but it was really an obstacle and a roadblock at that time.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when you had this panic attack and you're moving forward through, having all of this happening during grad school, right? You said?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So obviously you had a lot going on in the midst of all that. And so when you broke free of the fear, there it is, free of the fear, and you started to move in a new direction, to, have that healthier mindset and those things. Sometimes we have relationships and friendships that fall apart, come together, those kinds of things. So did this happen to you? And tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, I think I fell apart first.
Yeah.
And I just, my husband was very understanding. Luckily, he's very supportive. But I had one particular friend who, it's interesting, I had always sort of have dismissed him because he had a lot of anxiety and panic. And I was just like, well, it's because your faith isn't stronger. It's because you're not doing this or that. And then it happened to me. And it was, my gosh, it was like super humbling. And my disorder was so severe that it was like all day long, all night long, continual panic attacks with like hyperventilation and everything. It was like very life altering.
Yeah.
And it was honestly to the point where I was like ready to check out of here because there was no way that I could have sustained that way of life. It was not a way of living, in fact, because what it was doing to my body and how it was making my world so small. And I was still trying to push through at this point. I was still going to class. I was still teaching. I was performing. I was doing major performances. And yet I was dealing with all this on the backside of things. And that friend that I had persecuted for all those years was the one who actually stepped in and really started advocating for me. And he was like, Erin, you really need to get yourself into cognitive behavioral therapy or you're not going to be here anymore. And I was like, you're right. So he got me into therapy that really taught me a way to observe my thoughts about fear in a really non-judgmental way and just become a conscious observer of the sort of thought patterns that I was stuck in at that time. And over the course of several months, I was able to begin to crawl out of this very deep, dark hole that I had gotten myself into by very, very intentionally changing the thought patterns that I was believing as my truth into what was actually true. So that friend is really the reason that I'm here today. It's my friend Chris. He's one of my best friends. And now it's like something that we can commiserate on, right? Because every once in a while, like even though anxiety is not something that's like a really big part of my life anymore, every once in a while it'll sneak up on me. And just to have those friends in your life that really understand that and can not just be compassionate, but can really empathize with you and also give you other ideas and other tools and other things to try. To work through that has been so key for me and staying on top of it and really staying in a healed place rather than in a place where I'm like constantly dipping in and out of things.
Yeah. It's the steadiness that is amazing. A lot of people do have those ups and downs and it's more of a roller coaster than the steady plane. So that's really incredible. Like kudos to Chris for stepping up and being like, listen,
Yes.
Giving you a little taste of your own medicine kind of thing,
Oh my gosh. It was like God saying, you were so judgy all those years, and I'm going to teach you that this is actually a real thing and not just in people's heads. And it's not just something that people can mentally opt out of. And,
Right.
there was a lot of people at the same time in my life at that time that were kind of condemning in the same way that I had been. And it was so interesting because even as much as I was struggling, I was able to think to myself, okay, I understand where those people are coming from. And now I understand how much I just totally didn't get that.
Yeah.
And now I'm really grateful because I don't think that I would have the compassion and empathy that I do now had I not gone through that really dark season.
Yeah, absolutely. Isn't that just the thing? Like, we have to go through these things that we just do not understand at the time. And it's so funny, like once the fog clears and we see a little bit clearer and we get past it, we get through those fears and we keep going, is when, you're like, wow, you look back and you're like, that was so different than what I thought it was, or that I couldn't get through it. And that's the fear part of it, that we have to get through it and see that, way worse things can happen. And they do every single day, but it's the mindset part of it, right?
Yes,
That is huge.
Yep. We give a lot of power to fear. Fear is really, it's like that sort of patent thing that people say is that fear is an illusion, but it actually really is an illusion. And the other thing that I learned was an illusion is like any thoughts of control that I have over anything is also an illusion. Right. And so as I'm able to give up and surrender this idea that I can control anything, my anxiety also decreases, because I realize that like really this whole process of working through fear is really a process of surrender. And then also within that, learning to think what is actually true and be willing. This is such a huge thing. Be willing to expand into who you really need to be.
Yeah. That openness of, being able to let it in.
Yeah.
And not judging your own thoughts on it, right?
So true. So true. And that is such a mental discipline that I think we never really hear about, is just how to observe our reactions about fear, like whether it's the symptoms we're having in our body or the circular thought patterns that we're stuck in, and to observe them non-judgmentally. That applies to not just fear, but anger or sadness or any emotion that we might be stuck in as our sort of like holding pattern, whatever it is that's holding us back. But for so many of us, that is fear. We can learn to observe those things non-judgmentally and to give ourselves a little bit of grace. It's amazing how suddenly those things that seem like big, giant, scary monsters, they're just like, no, those are little shadows of little things in the corner, and it really doesn't amount to a hill of beans at the end of the day.
Yeah. That absolutely 100%. I can think of a million things that at one time you think that it's a really big deal. Yes. And you look at it and you're like, that was absolutely nothing. Like, there are people that are going through way crazier, sad, tragic things in this world that on a scale of what we're going through is nothing,
Absolutely.
But at the same point, like, not judging it at the same time. So you're right. 100%. I love that. So talking about, jumping ship from having those fears and holding you back. Obviously Chris was a huge, huge part of that, like getting you to realize, to flip the switch on what you needed and the therapy and those kinds of things. So, is there anything else that you felt like fear was holding you back from? And like, how did you jump ship from that other than Chris's nudge? You had to do it yourself and the mindset part of it, but is it therapy, or what is that for you more?
Yeah. So I think like going way back in my life, it's funny how all of these experiences in life, if you allow them, they actually in the long run will build your character and change you. And for me, it actually was my junior high boyfriend of all things. So I was very rebellious. My poor parents. When I was 13, I was a horrible person.
Oh no.
But I had this boyfriend, and he was also very rebellious. We were kind of rebelling together. But the silver lining of that whole thing, Rebecca, was that he really taught me, being in this very small town that we lived in, it was like less than 1,000 people, very, very religious, a lot of small-mindedness, a lot of positive things, but a lot of small-mindedness. Yeah. And we were kind of the artists, and we were kind of the thinkers outside of the box. And we were that inherently, we just were that. And we were in this place that didn't really get us or understand us or accept us. So there was two paths I could have chosen, like one of either the paths. I could have chosen to conform to the expectations of the community and become small because I was afraid of what other people thought, or I could choose to really not give a rat's you know what about what anybody thought.
Yep.
And that was a completely new concept for me at that time at 13. You know, my parents are very kind, very wonderful people that I don't think either of them have ever rebelled in their entire life. And so, you know, I had this amazing upbringing. I had these amazing parents, but I didn't actually have anybody model for me. When you are somebody who is different than the norm, how do you handle that in a way that's actually healthy? Now, was that relationship necessarily healthy? No, but the fruit of that relationship in the long run for me has been that he taught me to make a conscious choice to not care what other people think. And it has to be a conscious choice. So at age 13, I honestly remember very clearly this particular day where I made a conscious choice that I was not going to let other people's opinions and ideas of who I was supposed to be or who anyone was supposed to be hold me back from who I knew I really am.
Wow.
And that was a game changer for me. And so even, you know, as life has those ups and downs, as you have losses, as you have tragic things, as you go through serious illness, you know, my panic and anxiety thing, what has kind of been the foundation of all of that is that underlying that is just, I already decided years ago not to care what other people think.
Right.
So when I decide to move forward, I'm not inhibited by that, but it had to be a conscious choice on my part. And I think that's what people miss is that there's a lot of wishing and hoping, right? There's a lot of wishing, hoping, and prayers that, oh, maybe I'll just get over this thing, or maybe I'll just be able to push through. And it's like, no, you must choose this.
You can, but you have to decide.
You have to decide. And the decision is all it takes. And once you decide, the universe starts to move in your favor. And it's not a platitude, it's real.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the biggest thing, is making the decision and just knowing that you've already decided.
Yeah.
There's no questioning and back and forth. Either you do or you don't. And that's a huge thing too. Like one of my mentors talks about, you know, there is no trying. You can't try to do it. Like if I'm trying to pick up my water bottle, either I'm doing it or I'm not.
Right.
And that's the same thing about making any decisions. When I say, well, I'm going to try and go do that. Well, are you going to do it or aren't you going to do it? Because you're making the decision right now which side you're going to be on.
Yep. Tony Robbins talks about that too. He talks about how the word try is actually a shame word. It's a disempowering word because inherent within that is the idea that you might not actually be able to do this thing.
Yeah.
So you're actually giving up on yourself already when you're saying that you're going to try to do something.
Yeah. And it's so true. Since I've started holding that to myself, you know, not even putting the try in there, I'll say it and I'm like, oh, actually, I'm not going to try it. I'm going to do it. And if something were to happen that it's not 100% what I want it to be, I'm going to regroup. I'm going to redo it and I'm going to do it again. Instead of trying to do it, I'm just going to move forward and push through it and get to, you know, where I'm okay with it. So
Yep. And the more you do that, the easier it becomes each time. And suddenly the word try isn't even in your vocabulary anymore. It's like you have to practice even the discipline of being an action rather than being in wishing and hoping.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the switching of the wishing and hoping. Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about it that way. But yeah, when we just sit there and kind of dream about it and it's, you know, a thought, I might do that someday, or I'm going to try and do it, and you switch it and you're like, okay, you're held responsible for saying you're actually going to do it.
So true. So true.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So what advice would you give to people listening for, you know, finding that fear, you know, finding what that is for that person, finding a way to get past it, you know, finding the help, finding your support system, but overcoming that? What kind of advice would you give to the people listening to your story for how they can overcome their fear and the part that they're stuck in with their mindset and that kind of thing right now?
Yeah. So I think the first step is to cultivate a lot of curiosity about the situation. So why are you fearful? Like, have you asked yourself and have you spent some time examining where this fear is coming from? Or is all that you see this like tunnel vision to I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, you know, and just only thinking about that? So just take a step back for a moment and ask yourself why. Why am I afraid? And get really curious about it in a really non-judgmental way and see what starts to come up for you, because it's very revealing. Oftentimes what's behind fear is actually the things that need healing. And moving through the fear is the best medicine that we could ever give ourselves. It's the best gift we could ever give to ourselves. Yes.
Everyone's like, preach, girl. Yes.
Yeah, preach.
Totally
Okay.
agree.
So cultivating that curiosity about your own fear is huge. And it does, sometimes those things are going to be immediately apparent to you once you start asking that question. And other times you might actually have to just take a season and give yourself permission to take a season and say, okay, I need to step back here a little bit and examine this more closely, because sometimes we do have some really deep wounds that need some outside help for healing. So for myself, it was, for an example, it was a thought pattern that I had inherited from certain lines of my family that was all related to fears around my physical body.
Okay.
And it was totally subconscious thoughts. I was completely unaware of this thought pattern until I started to cultivate curiosity about where my fear was coming from. And once those things came up, then what you can do is, now that you know what the thing is, you can heal the wound. Now that you know where the wound is, you can heal it. You can give it the medicine that it needs. So it's different for everybody, right, Rebecca? So some people need that supportive community around them. I would say, I think pretty much we all do. It's just that some of us are more ready to be open to that than others because of where we are in the level of hurt that is involved with that fear.
Yeah.
And some of us do need that the professional intervention with that. But no matter what, as my mom always told me growing up, the only way out is through with this. It's like giving birth. Once that baby's inside, it is coming out one way or the other, right? Like, you can't get to that first labor pain and be like, I'm going to opt out of this now. It's like, no. And that's really how all of these things are in our life. If we don't allow ourselves to go through the birth pains and the crowning and everything, we don't have the harvest of that thing on the other side. That's really what we're most needing. So you have to be willing. You have to cultivate a willing spirit toward this process and understand that, as Rumi said, the pain, the crack is where the light enters you. Those wounded places, those painful places, those are the places that are your greatest opportunities. And so if you can also see a vision for yourself, like for me, all of the physical struggles that I've had, the struggles that I've had with anxiety, all of it, through that healing process, which has taken years, I have so many tools in my toolbox now to help other people. And so this brings me to my third point, which would be, I think a huge part of this healing process of moving through fear is seeing how you are going to be able to serve other people and help other people by you going first, by you leading yourself first through the path, right?
Yep.
And as you do that, you're going to be able to grab this person out of the fire and bring her with you, and grab this person out of the fire and bring him with you. And you're going to have this army of people eventually that are going to be walking and warring with you against this fear. And pretty soon the battle's over and you get to celebrate and then move forward with so much knowledge and so much life experience that you now get to bless other people with.
I got goosebumps. That's amazing. I love that. I don't know how you stayed on point like so well with that. You're like, this is my next point. This is my next point. I was like, well, what's my next point? What was I going to say about that? You're phenomenal. I love that so much. So yeah, being the leader in that and knowing like you can get through it and so can they, and you can help them. Like, I love that, reaching back, helping someone else because someone helped you, right? Like you found your help, and it really is that we're learning at, like, teaching is the best way to like get through it too, like helping other people in the same time that you are, because really it's like you're just a little bit further ahead than the people that need your help.
It's so true. And I think we have this idea that we have to be like a completed package before we can help people. But I learned in teaching. So I taught in the university setting for many years, and I teach now, and also I teach aromatherapy and herbalism, all kinds of stuff that I teach. There's never going to be a point where I know everything that there is to know about music and then I can teach. There's never going to be a point where I know everything there is to know about essential oils and then I can teach. It comes down to am I willing to be vulnerable in not knowing everything, but still be willing to offer what I do know so that other people can be pulled out of the fire, like I was saying? It's a willingness. It's a willingness to be vulnerable. And that's also a fear that we have to face when we're really going to live a big life, when we're really going to live stepping into our greatness, expanding into our fullest potential. We ultimately are going to face this moment where we realize that it's going to have a cost. And that cost is that we are going to have to become vulnerable with people. If we're really going to truly lead them, if we're really going to truly change lives on the heart level, which is the only way real change ever happens, is that we're going to have to be asked to be vulnerable ourselves first before we can really speak that truth into other people. So part of that vulnerability is like, I'm not a finished product. I don't have absolutely everything about my health dialed in, but I have a whole like 15 years of experience to offer people of different things that I can help them with.
Right.
Why would I hold 15 years of experience back just because I don't think I'm perfect, an ideal that doesn't exist in the first place, you know?
Yep, absolutely. It's taking those imperfect actions and actually like doing them and getting it. So, you know, just starting.
Yep.
So absolutely. So I love how passionate you are about all of this, and it makes total sense. I love it. So you mentioned was it junior high? You were 13, so it was like middle school.
My boyfriend. Yep.
Like that was the first part, right? And then so now you have your husband Bill, right?
Yep.
So how did you meet your husband Bill? I love asking people how they meet their significant others, because in this day and age, it's just like the internet's like the only thing I ever hear. So I always like to hear, how did you meet your significant other? Because it takes a really like awesome coupling for people to support one another. And you guys are doing these classes together. Like, obviously you guys are really great together if you're doing those kinds of things and you're on the same level. So tell me more about you and Bill. Like, how did you guys meet?
Well, we started dating when I was 14.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So he was the brother of my best friend growing up. And so we've known each other since we were zygotes, basically.
I love it.
But I never thought of him that way until he got rid of his gross glasses and got contacts. And I was like, oh my gosh, he has really pretty eyes. And then it was like,
you have really pretty eyes.
Oh, thank you. It was kind of weird because I always had thought of him like a brother because he was my best brother. And then like that relationship went through a big transition. And we dated all through high school, went to 3 proms together. I mean, the whole high school sweetheart thing. And then I went off to college and actually dated somebody else very seriously and thought my life was going in a very different direction. So we kind of diverged paths for a while, but we always maintained a friendship, and our relationship was always a friendship first. And I think that is so understated in our culture, just how important it is to be friends with your spouse.
Yep.
So we'd always had each other's best interests in mind, even when we were friends. And after I was done with college, living in the big city, he was in Fargo doing his thing, and he was kind of getting his life on track, and I was trying to figure myself out. And we just kind of got back together, and within a year we were married. It was crazy. And so it's been 15 years, and there have been some really, really hard times. So like where we are now is the fruit of sticking it through, seeing it through, not giving ourselves an out in any other option.
Yep.
It helps that for some reason he's like very attentive and adoring to me, which I don't know. He's sitting right over here. I don't really know why he likes me to be totally
He likes me so much. I don't get it.
I'm very hard on him, and I push him very hard. But you know, it comes down to that willingness. Like, he's always been open and willing to persevere through the hardships of the relationship. And because of that, the ultimate, what that's going to require, the cost of that is that we both have gone through so much personal growth and so much spiritual growth. And, you know, once you understand what personal growth does for you, you value it almost above anything else, right? Yep. And so now it's just like we're always looking for the next opportunity. You know, okay, let's start our businesses, or let's go to Tony Robbins, or let's get into network marketing, or let's consider this outside of the box idea. Yeah. He's always been on board with that. He's also a very out of the box thinker. And I think we've had to be out of box thinkers with our relationship as well many times. And also just realize that, like, I am so grateful right now that I did not give up year 5 when things were really, really bad. because what we have now is something that you cannot buy it. Like you cannot put a price on it. What you learn, and we're only 15 years in, like, where are we going to be 40 years from now, 50 years from now? What is God going to teach us, and where is he going to take us? And like, again, it comes down to that willingness. Am I willing to work through it? Am I willing to get over my pride? Am I willing to hang in there when it's really, really hard? And I don't know, for some reason, we've both just been willing to do that for each other. And it's created this partnership where we allow each other to grow, but we also really push each other in a lot of different ways. And also he makes me laugh a lot.
That's awesome.
So that's a big bonus for me. If you can make me laugh until I cry or drool or pee my pants, I'll probably love you for forever.
Cool. I love it. That is awesome. Well, that's really cool to hear. I think it's so true. And like you said, the culture of, people not understanding being friends with your spouse, and a lot of it is people thinking that you're just interchangeable. And that was a huge thing with me. Like, I actually never, fun fact, I did not want to be married. I grew up with a very divorced family, and I was just like, I don't need a man. And like, I wanted my babies. I wanted kids, but the husband aspect, I was like, I don't think I need that. And so when my husband came in the picture, I was like, realize that I will never like go through this again. Like, you will do the bad and the good. You will do it all with me, because you're not getting out of it.
Oh, seriously.
That you're okay with this, because you will see really ugly, and you will stand there and you will be part of it.
Yeah.
So, and really being partners and understanding that I'm not interchangeable and disposable like that. Like, so I love that you guys have that relationship. And 15 years, you're right, it's just the beginning of it. And it's super fun to hear how you guys have grown it. And the fact that you're honest about it, it's not easy. 15 years, it's been a cakewalk. Woo! And like you said, year 5 or whatever, like that first chunk, people get through a lot of different hurdles, and then you get through them and you're like, wow, yeah, we made it. And it's fun to hear those stories. So thank you for sharing that little personal bit. So now, you're living fearlessly. You found out how to get through your fears and how to overcome them, and what kind of a support system you have, and all those things are, you're a pretty well-oiled machine about getting through what you need to move forward and find success in whatever you're doing, which is amazing. So where do you see yourself in 5 years from today?
That is such an interesting question, because I feel like just when I have this idea of, okay, this is what my life looks like and things are settling in and this is who I'm going to be, God comes along and he like just kicks open another big door for me and is like, nope, but you're going to expand here now and you're going to expand here now. So that is always on the table. Like, I feel like I always have to be open to, okay, anything can happen. But having said that, disclaimer, I feel like my purpose here on this planet is to connect people with God, themselves, and nature. And so everything that I'm doing is really an extension of that. It's really an extension of connecting people back to themselves and the things that truly sustain them, and helping them live like a vibrant, holistic lifestyle, but with ease, like without this sense of overwhelm, because there's so much information out there. Right. And so much of it is contradictory. And so much of it is disconnected from our sense of our own intuition and knowing what's right for us. And so a big part of my work right now is just bringing people, specifically women, but I'm totally open to working with dudes as well, back to that core sense of their intuition and their connection to nature and their connection to the divine. Because I feel like when we get that right, so much about our lives just kind of starts clicking into place where it needs to be. So the platforms and the vehicles that I'm using to do that are my network marketing business and my apothecary, where I'm doing aromatherapy and herbalism, teaching online courses and things like that. So I have a lot of different places to funnel people into in terms of whatever their needs are and whatever is going to serve them best to connect with those things. And what I feel is like the ultimate outpouring of that, Rebecca, and maybe this sounds strange to say, but I really feel like I'm here for the earth. Okay. I think a lot of people are here for people. And I think I'm here for the earth by way of helping people. As I help people to connect with nature and what truly sustains them, I really feel like we're going to be able to bring some better balance to our environment, to our economy, to our sense of community with each other, in our spiritual walk, and so on and so forth, with our health and wellness, hugely with that. I think a lot of the problems that we're having right now with our health and wellness all relate back to the fact that we are so disconnected from nature and the natural cycles that we all are a part of but have forgotten about. So that's really what I feel called to do. And I just see that whole thing of my life really expanding further into those tracks that I already have set up.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I believe the same thing about like disconnect. People are so caught up that in their everyday life and, having to work and do these things and hustle, doing whatever they feel like they need to get done in the day to day, that they're forgetting to like go outside and enjoy a sunset or a sunrise or, just getting out and enjoying Mother Nature and seeing it. So I was just in Iceland and
oh, I know. That looks so awesome.
Yeah. Like just taking a moment, like each day I was like, okay, this is my moment. I'm going to go find a quiet place and just take it in, like just be present in the moment and just look at the land and just take it all in. And like every time I was like in tears, I'm just like, this is so beautiful. It's amazing. But people just do not do that. And it's so true. The disconnect part of it with nature, that we're stuck inside our houses or in buildings or behind our phones and social media, that that disconnect is so easy because we feel so connected online that people just aren't getting out and doing those things. So do you do workshops that pull all of those things together? Is that something that
I do actually have something really cool to offer in the realm of helping people to live in sync with nature and with themselves and with the divine? It's actually a partnership with our mutual friend, Corey and Faith. And it's called the Intuitive and Seasonal Living Academy. So it's an online course that people can opt into for each season. So the launch date of each season is either the equinox or the solstice of that season. And it's a 6-week program that goes through Ayurvedic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, and aromatherapy hacks for that particular season to get you more in touch with nature and also your own body and your own physicality and what it's needing at this particular time of year. And then Corey brings in the body, mind, and soul elements and connects you with the divine, mentally, also with your own personal development, and works through some things that way for that side of things that is relevant to that particular season. So we'll have another one launching here on the winter solstice, which is coming up here. Man, I can't believe it. And like in a month, and on the 21st of next month.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I didn't even know that. That's fun that I just pulled that in there. Corey's going to be coming on soon. Look for that, ladies. So that's really cool. And so wrapping this up, tell people where they can find you to connect with you about everything that you just mentioned, where can we connect with you?
Yeah, so lots of different places. I really do a lot through Instagram and also through Facebook, my personal account, as well as Prairie Soap House and Apothecary. My Facebook page, every Wednesday I do an essential oil profile or something educational completely for free. So if you follow me there. And then also I'd recommend that people go out to prairiearomatherapy.com and sign up for my newsletter, and you'll be able to get in the know about whenever we're launching a new season of Isla. I have some other huge things coming up within the next year or two, and I mean like giant, within that whole realm of things that I mentioned. So you don't want to miss out on that. And then if you're very specifically interested in the Intuitive and Seasonal Living Academy, you can go to intuitiveseason.com and you can put yourself on the mailing list for that so you get notified when our next session is open.
Sweet. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. That's fantastic. So Erin, I want to say thank you so much for your time, telling us your story and all about how you've came to being like the strong, independent, fearless lady that you are, and all in North Dakota. Who'd have thought, right? The prairie. I love it. So guys, we will put the information in below of the video too for you to connect with Erin here, and I look forward to hearing comments in below about what you've learned from Erin, and tell us what your biggest takeaway is in the comments. That'd be awesome. So Erin, thank you so much for coming on Live Fearlessly vlog, and have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.